Cocaine is in the building.
What is up, Bills Mafia? It's game day eve again, and we are back at it with another preview show. I got a great show for you tonight. I got Chase here with at King NFL Stats joining me. We're going to break down the Week 8 reverse power rankings. We'll do a review of some of the exciting 1 p.m. games. And then we'll also, of course, break down the matchup between the Buffalo Bills and the Seattle Seahawks. Chase, how's it going, man? Thanks so much for joining me. Watch out for your mic. You got to unmute.
Sorry about that. Yeah, I appreciate you having me on here. Real glad to be on here. Doing good tonight. Ready to get right into this.
Awesome. Well, let's do it. First, let me pay some bills, and then we'll get started. I'd like to thank our show sponsor, Mackenzie Farms and Happy Holiday Tree Farms, for supporting the show. They'd like to share a message with you all for this holiday season. Remember when we took pride in the things we built, the things we grew? When we put aside small differences to support one another? We can do it again. It's not as hard as you think. This Christmas, say no to fake trees. They're made of lead and plastic in sweatshops overseas. Choose a traditional, sustainable, real tree grown by American family farmers in every state. This Christmas, don't fake it. Go real. That way you will definitely have a really great Christmas holiday. Sponsored by the growers of real Christmas trees at Happy Holiday and Mackenzie Tree Farms. And then our newest network sponsor is W Energy. W is an amazing energy drink that is made with clean ingredients to give you the energy boost you need with no crash. They also offer an electrolyte drink to keep you hydrated. Hit the link in the bio or go to w.gg and use the promo code DUE, D-U-E, and get 10% off your first purchase. All right, Chase. What you watch any football today? Any good games you catch, or you're not too into college football?
College, it just consumes me. It consumes my wallet too whenever I gamble on it. So I just gotta focus on the NFL. Pick one and stick with it.
Hey, I know that feeling, man. I want to get so into it, but for me, I got little kids, so Saturday is kind of family day, and then football Sunday is my day. So I feel you there. I want to gamble on college, man, but it's tough, man. I just don't watch it enough. I watched a little bit. I watched Nebraska-Ohio State game today. That was a really good game. Yep. Nebraska played well on the road. Ohio State pulled it out in the end. And then I watched a little bit of the UCF Texas game. But, I just don't get to watch enough.
Yeah, same.
All right, well, we'll dive into the NFL then. We got reverse power rankings, everyone's favorite thing. So we'll start it right off. So remember, if you guys disagree, don't be afraid to hit up the comments and let us know. Don with the LSU versus Texas A&M got a good game going on right now. Yeah, I saw Don. I saw it at the half, though. I think it was like 17-7 LSU. So you'll have to keep us updated on how that game's going. All right, so 32 in the power rankings. I have Carolina. I don't know. There's not too much to say, right? Oh, so by the way, Chase, for these power rankings, this is as the teams are right now. So it includes injuries, quarterback changes. It is Week 8 right now. If the teams were playing, how do we think they would do? So just remember that it's not what we project them to be, or full strength. So 17-14 right now. Okay, so LSU's still winning, but good game. All right, so 32 is Carolina. Bryce Young going to Denver. Good luck. He's got no Thielen. Deontay Johnson might be out of there soon, so good luck. 31 is New England. I like what Drake May's doing, but again, he's done it against two pretty bad defenses, so we'll see if he can keep it up. They got the Jets here. I mean, they could definitely win that game, but we'll see what he can do against that Jets defense. But New England, 31 right now until they can be a little more competitive. 30, I got the Titans. They're obviously in sell mode right now. Who knows what's going on with quarterback? Will Levis practiced some this week, but he's got the AC joint sprain in his shoulder. He's looked awful. Mason Rudolph started last week. Didn't look too much better. So, yeah, I have Tennessee at 30. 29, I have the Raiders. This whole group of teams right here until about 25, you could pretty much put them in any order. But I have the Raiders at 29. Not too much more to say. Their season's crashing and burning pretty hard. They got the Chiefs, so good luck. I'd love for them to come out of nowhere and beat the Chiefs, but I doubt it. 28, I have New Orleans. I probably would put them lower if I could, but the teams below them stink as well. New Orleans just super banged up with the injuries. I'm not getting much out of backup quarterback and Rattler. So we'll see. But New Orleans at 28. I have the Giants at 27. A little feisty. They're feisty. I like their D-line. Just hard to trust Daniel Jones. But I have them at 27 because it feels like any given week they can play someone real tough and win a game. 26, I have Jacksonville. I would probably put them a lot lower if they didn't win the second game in London. Granted, they had a massive rest advantage, but they're talented, so I'll keep them at 26 for now. They'll probably lose this week, though, and drop. 25, I have Cleveland. That's mainly because of the Jameis boost. I had them lower with Deshaun Watson because he's the worst quarterback in football, but he is no longer playing because he has the Achilles. Not sad about that at all. We'll see what Jameis can do. If that offense just gets a little bit of a pulse, they'll be a very tough team. Their defense is still playing well. Chubb's back, and Wyatt Teller was just taken off of IR, so he's coming back. So that should be a nice boost to that offensive line.
They were towards the bottom with Watson.
Yeah.
I was waiting
just because that offense was so bad.
Yeah.
Last week I think I had him at like 28 or 29.
Yeah.
They were getting nothing out. They were going backwards. Their offense was so bad, like historically bad. They couldn't run the ball either. So Chubb back, Jameis gives them at least something, but that wide receiver core is tough.
Chance of upset as a Ravens fan, it worries me slightly just because.
Yeah, that's true. It could happen, right? It's a division game. You know, we'll talk about that game in a little bit, but yeah, we'll see. I have Arizona at 24. I don't know what Arizona is. 1 week they're good, 1 week they're blown out. I don't know. But I have them at 24. 23, I have the Colts. They're kind of similar to Arizona as well. The defenses aren't great, especially against the run. But any given week, the offense can show up and be competitive. Anthony Richardson, though, man, I don't trust. I think if Flacco's in there, everybody likes the Colts better with Flacco. But I have the Colts at 23. Miami, I have at 22. I think we'll see. Tua comes back here, right? They got Arizona at home. It's a must win. It's a must win for them. Like if they don't win this game, I don't see them making the playoffs. They're 2-4. They dropped to 2-5, and then their next game's at Buffalo on the road. So I do think Tua is a massive upgrade on what they've had at quarterback. But I can't move them up too high yet just because I want to see the rest of it. The offensive line, how does Tua look coming back after a bunch of time off? How's the timing and rhythm of that offense? They haven't been able to run the ball that well. So Miami at 22. Also, Zach Sealer got hurt this week, which is like their heart and soul in the middle of that defense on the defensive line. He got poked in the eye and had an orbital fracture. So that's just crazy. They're just having a weird season. 21, I have Atlanta. I don't know what to make of Atlanta. I thought they were a better team, and then Seattle went there and smoked them at home. Granted, that was a much closer game until the fourth quarter where they just started turning the ball over like crazy. I think they had 3 turnovers in the fourth quarter. But Atlanta's still talented. They got to bounce back this week against Tampa Bay. So I have Atlanta at 21. I have the Jets at 20. We'll see, man. We'll see. They got to beat New England. They got to start stacking some wins. Or the season's going to be over real fast. I mean, they have very little leeway left. They pretty much have to go 8-2, I think, the rest of the way to even have a chance at making the playoffs. So I have the Jets at 20. I have Seattle at 19. Seattle's been so Jekyll and Hyde. They win 3 in a row. They lose 3 in a row, including one at home against the Giants. And then they just went and smacked Atlanta coming off the bye. So I don't know what to make of this Seattle team. They have the talent. They're starting to get healthy. They got both their corners coming back this week. A tackle's coming back. Lucas is close to coming back as well at tackle. but Metcalf might not play this week, so I don't know what to make of them. If they beat Buffalo at home, I'll definitely move them up higher. So I have Seattle at 19. I have the Rams at 18. Man, they looked really good against Minnesota. Granted, they got some help from the refs, but Puka coming back looking as good as ever on limited snaps. Cup's back healthy. And then their D line's young, but they're good, man. So
Yeah,
we'll
for
see.
sure.
Yeah, Lucas was ruled out. We'll talk about that one later. Um, so yeah, I have the Rams at 18. I think they could start rattling off some wins. That NFC West is not great. So I have them at 18. I have Dallas at 17. I don't know what to do with Dallas, man. Like it's tough without Micah Parsons, Demarcus Lawrence as well as out. That offense just hasn't. They can't run the ball. That offense hasn't looked that great. Dak's been looking worse every week. So I don't know what to do with them. This is a big spot for them. I kind of like them here coming off the bye on the road in San Francisco. So if they go and beat San Francisco, then yeah, their season's right back on track. But I have
Yeah.
Dallas at 17 right now. You could argue that they should be lower. I
I
have the
think I think
Chargers at.
that
Go
sorry,
ahead.
sorry. No,
No,
I
you're
think
good.
that other people have them higher just based on like a
The
historic
name, right?
mindset. Yeah, yeah, just who
For
they are.
sure.
Dak's quarterback. We just gave him all this money. Oh, they should be
Yeah.
better, so we're gonna make them better. But I agree with you wholeheartedly.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think they're a different team when healthy, right? But so is a
Mhm.
lot of teams. So you
Everybody,
gotta
yeah,
right. You gotta still win some games. That
for
that
sure.
game in Pittsburgh, I thought they got a little lucky at the end, but it was a good win. So here's
Mhm.
another chance. Go on the road and beat San Francisco, and they'll be right back on track. But yeah, 17. I have the Chargers at 16. Um, I like the way their defense is playing. They've been running the ball well, but they just don't have weapons, man. They have no one to pass to. So there's a very specific game they need to win, right? They got to force turnovers. They got to run the ball well. If they get behind early, it's game over essentially. So for that reason, I have them at 16. I have Denver at 15. Very similarly, Bo Nix is can only play a half of football. Very bad in the first half too. So I don't know. They got to get more from that passing game as well. Javonte Williams looks like the Javonte Williams we all hoped he would be. They're running the ball very well. He's been on fire the last few weeks. I really like that defense, and that they have a really strong home field advantage. So I have Denver at 15. I have Chicago at 14. I don't know what Chicago is. Like they've played 3 or 4 straight of the top or the bottom 5 pass defenses, and Caleb Williams has kind of feasted on that. But I want to see what they do against a good defense. Now, granted, this week they have Washington with a banged up um, Jaden Daniels, but that defense isn't great. So I wouldn't be shocked if Caleb Williams has another good game. But their schedule is brutal later, and I think that's where we'll find out what Chicago really is. Like I could see them losing 7 or 8 straight games at the end to end the season. So that's when you'll kind of find out who this Chicago team really is. But right now, I'll respect that defense and the offense looking much better. So I have them at 14. I have Tampa Bay at 13. I'd like to put them lower, but I want to see how they do against Atlanta in a bounce back spot. Um, it's tough, man. You lose Godwin for the year, Evans being hurt. It's tough, man. But I want to see how they respond from that. They're still a pretty good squad. So I have Tampa at 13, but I could easily see
Only
them sliding
argument,
down some.
yeah, my only
Yeah,
argument for them is I just feel like their defense is not what
right,
we're used to. I mean, the
right.
Saints,
Especially against the
I mean, they
run.
went
Like,
crazy on them. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah,
And then,
I
like you
agree
said,
with
losing
that.
those two
Their
weapons.
pass defense has been terrible.
I mean, in 2 weeks you could have the Falcons, which you had a few spots lower, and the Bucks. I can see them flip flop. In power
Totally
rankings for
agree with
sure.
that. Yeah, and it's hard for me to put the Falcons higher, even though I like them with how
Yeah,
bad they played against Seattle at home. So, but
yeah,
yeah, I could see Tampa really sliding here if they don't play well without um, Evans and Godwin. So we'll see. 12, I have Cincinnati. Um, I expect Cincinnati to be a lot higher in the future, but man, they like messing around games and keeping them close, uh, and the defense just hasn't been as good as I want it to be, at least consistently, especially against the run. So I worry about that a little bit. This is a big test for them. I know they're favored against Philly, but both these teams are playing below their standards, right? Both these teams are playing worse
Agreed.
this year, and I could see either team winning this game. So I think whoever wins this game, really will set themselves up going forward. But for me right now, I have Cincinnati at 12 just because I have a lot more questions about them. I think Burrow's playing about as good as you can until the end of a game. I don't trust him right now at the end of a game. He's not looked very good at the end of a game. He's looked really good until the last 10 minutes. So we'll
Mhm.
see. But they live too much on big plays by Chase and Higgins, and especially Chase. Like they live and die by him breaking crazy runs off and tackles and scoring big touchdowns. So we'll see. I have
Yeah.
them at 12. I have San Francisco at 11. I want to put them lower. I really do. Like they have not been the team we thought they should be. I know they're dealing with a lot of injuries, but so is everybody. Ayuk now out for the season. That's tough. CMC, we don't know if he'll come back and win. They said he's coming back, but we'll see. Um, Jordan Mason coming back, I think, is big and helpful for them if he's healthy. But they got to figure out what they're going to do because Debo's been banged up. He hasn't been used too much. And without Ayuk now, man, they got to figure out that offense. Is it going to be a more Kittle and use check? I don't know. But I have a lot of questions about San Francisco, but I still respect the talent on that roster. And I feel like they could still go out and beat most teams below them. So I have them at 11. If Dallas goes in there and beats them, though, I'll definitely drop them. So we'll
Yeah, I
see.
feel like the season's over for whoever loses, as far as Super Bowl aspirations for sure. Not to say Dallas
Yeah,
should
that's a
have
good
them, but
point. It for sure could be right because you're looking on the outside in
mhm.
essentially, and that NFC, especially the NFC North, is tough, man. It might take 10, 11 wins to get a wild card in the NFC, and we didn't
Yeah,
think it was going to be like that. So you
yeah,
got to start stacking wins at some point. And San Francisco's schedule is not easy. So that's a good point. I have Washington at 10. I'd have them higher if the defense was playing better. They have the pieces, but they gotta play better. But Jaden Daniels, man, is playing really good football. I hope the rib injury is not anything crazy or affect him too much. Um, and yeah, I have Washington at 10. We'll see what they can do. Um, if they go in Chicago and win, I think that's a big win. So we'll see about that. I have Minnesota at 9. I still like Minnesota a lot. I thought that was a tough game as far as there were some bad penalties in that game that gave the Rams extra first downs. Obviously, that penalty at the end of the game was really tough. They still had to drive like 70 yards or whatever, but that penalty was pretty tough at the end of the game. I think teams are figuring out Darnold a little bit in that offense, so I
hmm
do worry about that long term. And then Flores, typical Flores, he's only really effective against certain quarterbacks, certain schemes.
who
So
can't handle the blitz.
right, exactly.
Yeah,
So I do worry a little bit about that. But I really like Kevin O'Connell and they have talent. I feel like they could beat anybody. So I have
hmm
them at 9 right now. I have Pittsburgh at 8. I don't know what to make of them either. Like I don't think Russell's nearly as good as he played against the Jets. Uh, a couple of those throws were just his classic, like throw him up and pray. But when you have Pickens on the other end, that helps. So we'll see what sustained Russell Wilson is. But they're running the ball better. The offensive line is playing better, and that defense is just so good. Like as long as Highsmith or Urbig plays opposite of Watt, they're gonna have a chance to beat anybody because that D line is just nasty. And then you have Hayward and Benton in the middle, and team's good, man. So and they play the way they want. They play they play a dirty game, close game. You make mistakes and they're gonna capitalize on it. And then the thing I'll give Russ credit for is he doesn't turn the ball over a lot, and I think that's the big thing. It'll keep them in a lot of games. So they have their division is tough, and they have a lot of their division games late in the year. So we'll see. That schedule is going to be tough for them. So, but I respect what they've done in that roster, and I respect Tomlin. So I have them at 8 right now. I have Buffalo at 7. Um, a lot of injuries right now, and I'm worried about the Seattle game because of some of the injuries. We'll see. I mean, it's hard when your middle linebacker's out, your weak side linebacker is out still. It's tough, man. So we'll see. Um, Here you go. Donnie saying about Pittsburgh. They had no tape on Russ in this offense, and the Jets are the Jets. No, I
yeah,
totally agree. I think I think a little bit of that was fool's gold with Russ, and so we'll see what they can do going forward. But again, like they get anything out of that offense, and they're going to be in a lot of games.
Yeah.
So
I mean, those 50-50 balls to Pickens go the other way, or half of
right,
them, you know, and then we're having a different conversation.
for sure, they don't get the flags. So
Yeah.
we'll see. Sauce had some classic Sauce holds, so we'll see. Buffalo at 7 though. This is a big game. You go on the road, beat Seattle, take care of business. I think that goes a long way. But I could totally see Buffalo slip up here and drop a little bit. So, all right, A&M touchdown, 21-17, now pending the extra point. LSU is 1 for 4 on field goal attempts, 2 misses, and they just had a missed snap. Holder just got hit in the head. Wow. Is Smiley coaching the LSU special teams? That's our special teams coordinator, Matthew Smiley, and he does not get a lot of love on this show. So, all right. So number 6, I have Philadelphia at number 6. I think I'm giving him too much respect, too much credit. But when AJ Brown's healthy, man, that offense is a completely different offense. They're running the ball really well with Barkley, and I think that defense will get enough. I think the defense will get enough. We'll see. Big test for them. They beat Cincinnati here, and I think they deserve to be at 6. Cincinnati beats them, then I'll drop them some. But right now I got them at 6. I have Houston at 5. Probably a little too high, but for me, Houston's just hasn't figured it out yet this year. They're not firing on all cylinders. I think Stroud is a completely different quarterback without Nico Collins. I think that is very similar to Jalen Hurts without A.J. Brown. The data on that is crazy. His splits with Nico Collins on the field and off the field are insane. But they have a lot of talent, man, and that defensive line can really get after people. And they went into Lambeau and lost on a last-second field goal. So it's hard for me to knock them too low for losing to what I think is a top 5 team on the road by a field goal. So I have Houston at 5. I think they're a really good team. Joe Mixon brings the nasty to that offense that they need. And they just got to survive until Nico gets back. And then I think they're going to be really, really dangerous. So I have Houston at 5. I have Green Bay at 4. I think they're another team that's still figuring it out. Like Jordan Love's getting healthy. Those wide receivers have been banged up and going in and out. I think that defense can match up with anybody when they want to. They like to take days or games off. But man, you get Jair, pumped up for a game and he can guard anyone. So I really like Green Bay. I have them at 4. I have Detroit. Go ahead.
The only piece I have about them that worries me, them being that high, is Jordan Love with all the interceptions. I mean,
Totally.
he's missed 2 games, and is he leading
Yep.
the NFL, I believe? It's just.
So he's kind of like a mirage to me as well. I don't
Yeah.
think he's nearly as good as the streak he was on to end the year last year. I think a lot of that was schemed stuff. If you watch his tape, he's not very accurate. He does not set his feet well, but he's got guys just wide open. And with the talent they have, I think that's enough. They're going to put up points and they're going to beat people. They have a good squad, man, and a lot of talent. And Josh Jacobs is having a good year running the ball. And I like that coaching staff. So there's not a lot of great teams, right? That's where it gets tough when you get this top 10. It's really tough because everyone has question marks, right? Like everyone has things you're worried about. But yeah, it's hard when you don't trust the quarterback, to play great week in and week out. And that's why I have Philly, Houston, and Green Bay all lumped together right there, because you could argue the same thing about all 3 of those teams. It's what quarterback is going to show up for those teams, right? Like that's really what it comes down to for those 3 teams, because the rest of the squads I like. 3, I have Detroit. I'd have Detroit probably 1 if Aiden Hutchinson was still healthy. For me, that is a massive loss, especially when you talk about playing elite teams, the playoffs. You have to have defensive line, man. You have to have a defensive line. That is what wins and loses games deep in the playoffs. Look at the Super Bowl the last few years. It's been the defensive line making big plays at the end of the game. And I really worry about that with Detroit. Now, they could make a move, and they that could change that, Zadarius Smith or somebody that they could still sign, but I worry about Detroit for that. The rest of their roster is fantastic. They're running the ball really well. Jared Goff has settled back in and is playing arguably the best quarterback the last 3 or 4 weeks. So I really like that team, but yeah, Aiden Hutchinson out is just massive, massive for me. So I have Detroit at 3. I have Baltimore at 2. Um, really like Baltimore. Their defense just has to play better. I think they will as the season goes on. But for me, it's corner for them. Injuries and just they're not very deep there, and I worry about that. They've given up a lot of passing yards. They played great against Buffalo, but we've seen other games where they've really struggled. So also, I worry about their game script. If they don't get out in a lead on somebody, I do worry about them having to come back on people. And so we'll see. But granted, the way they've been running the ball and the way they've been getting out on people, they're tough out right now. So I have them at 2. But I have Kansas City number 1 because they've beaten them, and also I feel like Kansas City matches up really well with Baltimore as far as being able to stop the run, and they'll play that style of game. They're okay with playing that style of game with Baltimore, playing it, slow it down, let grind it out, and they're okay with that. And so until someone can knock them off, I don't mean just beating them in the regular season. I mean actually knock them off when it matters. Kansas City number 1, man. Like it would take some major injuries for them not to be up there, right?
Yeah, they just whatever style you want to play. I mean, they're gonna figure out a way to be competitive and probably win the game no matter what.
Right. And then they got D Hop. Now I don't think he's the D Hop of the previous years, especially with his knee injury. But that's not what they need. They just need someone who can go out and catch a pass, right? Like something on the outside that can catch a pass, right? And so Juju, whenever he gets healthy too, I know he's dealing with knee injury. When he gets healthy. That's nice with Kelsey. Like they don't need much, man. That defense is so good.
Yep.
I hate it. I hate it. Enough of that.
I feel your pain as the Ravens fan, so we're on the same page.
Exactly. All right, so that's the reverse power rankings. We update it every week. Feel free to comment if you disagree. I will probably tell you to pound sand, but I will definitely post your comment and we'll talk about it. Next up, we'll talk about the 1 p.m. slate. The Bills game obviously is not till 4 o'clock. So what are you going to do till then, right? So there's a great 1 p.m. slate, a bunch of games that matter to the Bills. So I wanted to cover 5 games that matter to the Bills that I'll be watching before the game. So first up is Philly at Cincinnati. Cincinnati's favored by 2.5 at home, so pretty much a push, right? Vegas thinks that they're pretty much wash. Over under is 45.5. Chase, what do you think about this matchup? What are you looking for? What are some storylines? What do you got?
I mean, you mentioned it earlier, I believe, with Cincy being they're bottom third in the league against the run. I think it was they're allowing around like 135, 136 a game. We've seen what Saquon could do. I know I've heard, Saquon's the same. They had Swift last year. It's just the scheme that's making him better. But, I mean, it is Saquon. So I feel like he's just going to go crazy in this game. And then, I mean, since he also doesn't have T. Higgins, he's out, another leg injury. I mean, those two things combined alone, really sway it in Philly's favor for me.
Yeah, it's interesting, man. The game script for me there, like, I want to believe in Cincy. Like, I want to believe that they're still going to put up some points early and make this a game. But another part of me just is like, man, Philly can just really take over this game with Saquon just going off early. And then you have AJ and Devonta healthy. Like, Cincinnati doesn't match up well on the outside there either. Like, I'm really interested. I would love to see Philly win that game. I think that would be a big game for Philly. But at the same time, like, I don't trust that coaching staff. Like, I do not like Nick Sirianni. I don't love, the offensive side of the ball there, like offensive coordinator. Like, I don't love.
Kellen Moore was supposed to come in and change.
I don't love Kellen Moore, man. Yeah,
nothing jumps out.
No, and then like whatever. Like they run the ball fine. He's shown he can run the ball, but. For me, like, Hurts has taken a step back, like, and that's the thing. Like, you needed him to, like, he was playing unbelievable for that Super Bowl run, right? And played unbelievable in the Super Bowl. I mean, arguably better than Mahomes, right? And he's really regressed this year, and part of that might be wide receiver injuries and whatnot. But he's got to play better. He's got to hit some of those throws. He has not been doing it yet, and this is a big game for him to do that. And I think they do that, and they could definitely beat Cincy for sure. Like Cincy is super vulnerable right now, so
Yeah.
yeah, I think it should be a great matchup, man. I'm really looking forward to it, and I really like Saquon in this game.
Yeah. The only other
But you
thing I
got
have is
go ahead.
uh, I remember I want to say before the season or it was preseason time, Jalen Hurts had come out and said that like 90% of the playbook was totally different for him. It was like a storyline that he was mentioning that,
I
so
didn't
maybe
see
it's
that.
just
That's a
them.
great point. Yeah.
Maybe it's
No.
just him finally coming around to learning this new offense, or the verbiage was 90% different. It was something that was a complete change for him. So, I mean, these last 2 weeks they have looked much better. So
Yeah.
we'll
Yeah,
see.
and he's a really smart dude. Like I really
Mhm.
have a lot of respect for him as a leader, and I know he takes that shit really serious.
Yeah,
But yeah, you have a new playbook that's tough, man. And then he's just so much different when AJ Brown plays than when he doesn't. Like the numbers are crazy. And
yeah,
so I think that is part of it too, because every quarterback needs a security blanket, right? Someone they can go to when they need a bucket. And obviously AJ Brown's one of the best to do it, and he loves throwing those RPO slants, and without AJ there, the defense just can play it completely different. And
hmm,
so I think that is massive for him. It helps him settle down. So yeah, I expect him to have a good game, man, and I really like Philly in this game. Philly
yeah,
should win this game for me. For me, I even like Philly on the money line here. So we'll see. But Cincinnati's that team that they totally surprise you, right? They lose to teams they shouldn't lose to, and then they beat the really good teams. So wouldn't be surprised either way. All right, next game we got your Baltimore Ravens at the Cleveland Browns. So we try to focus on AFC matchups, obviously being the
hmm,
Bills, right? So, but big matchup, man. I mean, I'm interested more, not so much Baltimore. I think go on the road, take care of business in Cleveland. Not too worried about that. But for me, it's just more like what does Cleveland look like? Jameis, that's a big switch. Get Deshaun Watson out of there. Like how much of those guys just didn't want to play for him, didn't want to block
hmm,
for him. He obviously was playing like crap too, so like I don't know how much those guys really felt good about like what he was gonna do for that team as well. So yeah, I think maybe they get a boost from Jameis coming in there, and then Chubb's back. It's his second game, and he looked pretty good last week, and now he's got a game under his belt. So do they let him go here? Like there's some interesting storylines here. Like, but Jameis could totally throw three interceptions, two of them pick
yeah,
sixes, and Baltimore wins by 40. Like, I don't
yeah.
know what could happen here, right?
Yeah, the only thing that worries me is, I mean, Marlon Humphrey's out. Now they're
Yep.
saying Nate Wiggins is going to be out
He's not
too.
playing. Yeah. He's
I
going to
mean, I know
travel, but he said they said he wasn't going to play.
yeah,
But I mean, like, who are they matching up
yeah,
against, man?
exactly.
Like,
Yeah, that's the
it's
other side of
Jerry
that.
Judy who hasn't really done much.
Yeah.
Elijah Moore. Um,
Hmm.
yeah, like,
The only weapon,
uh, th-
pass catcher is Njoku that worries me. I think he had like
yeah.
14 targets last week or
A
something.
guy I like sneaky, and I'll
Yeah,
probably be playing his props is Cedric Tillman. So
really.
he had 8 catches for like 80 yards last week. Jameis really liked go or DTR
DTR.
liked
Yeah.
going to him. Yeah, and then when Jameis came in, he liked going to him. So yeah, there you go, Don. I agree with you, Donnie Tillman. He's kind of nice, man. I liked him in college. And so we'll see. I mean, again, like I don't expect this to be like turn the game around and Cleveland win because of it, but we're talking
Yeah.
props. Like I think his line's pretty low, so I'll probably play some Tillman there. But yeah, I expect Baltimore to take care of business. They're 8.5 point favorites on the road, so I don't know. Maybe I don't know if they cover that, maybe. But again, it's a divisional game. Weird shit happens. They're on the road,
For sure.
so I don't know what the weather's like. I haven't looked at that either,
Yeah.
but.
The one thing
Yeah,
that like that's just like my saving grace for this game is, as we know, the Ravens are number one in with the run game in the league,
yeah,
and Cleveland's like average, middle of the road, and that alone,
yes.
I mean, I feel like they're just gonna get out in front. I mean,
Yeah,
nobody
and,
like
and
no show, they can score.
Baltimore's not a normal run
Yeah,
game either, right? Like
yeah, yeah.
they'll challenge anyone. I mean, they ran on Kansas City too. I mean, so
Correct.
yeah, that's a whole nother animal. So I totally expect them to be able to run the ball and to control that game for sure. So
Yeah.
all right, next up we got Arizona at Miami. Miami is favored at home 4.5. The over under is 46.5. What Arizona team shows up? How does Tua look coming back? Really interesting storylines here. Does Tua make it through the game? I don't know. Arizona has probably the worst pass rush in football. They lost all of their best pass rushers. They didn't have great ones to begin with. So I don't know. What do you think about that game? You got anything interesting that you'll be watching out for?
I mean, my heart tells me that it's just going to pick up right where it left off with Tua. I mean, I feel like they've been in this offense long enough that, they got their key components. They got Tua, they got Tyreek, they got Waddle. I mean, it could easily be
Yeah,
said
so
he has some
Tyreek
mental
popped up with
delays.
a yeah, Tyreek popped up with a foot this week. He was talking in the media before that and was, play me in fantasy, I'm back, blah blah blah. And then he popped up with a foot injury. He's questionable. So, yeah,
Yeah.
how healthy is he? But this Arizona defense isn't great, man. And yeah, I don't
Miami's
I
defense is the opposite. They are great, So it's
right. Yeah, they have really flown under the radar as far as a good defensive unit. Um, Especially with being on the field so much with how bad Miami's offense has been without Tua. And then
yeah.
I expect Tua not to be that rusty. I mean,
Mhm.
I, I don't know. It's not like he was, mentally out or not around.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't know. I'm really this is why I'm really interested in this game. Like I want to see how Miami looks because again, like
Mhm.
they have zero games to mess around with anymore. Like they have to start winning games.
Oh yeah.
Um, and then they have a monster game the following week at Buffalo on the road. So yeah, really, I'll definitely be watching this game for sure. It'll be one of the four on my quad box. Shout out Sunday Ticket on YouTube TV. It's great with the quad box. Definitely sign up for the student edition though. Don't pay the full price. Get the student edition. It's way cheaper. I'm sure everyone knows somebody in school. All
You
right,
know, one
next.
more
Go
one
ahead.
more thing about them. Well, with Miami's defense, as good as they are, they're first with pass yards allowed, but they only have 5 takeaways the entire season,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
is crazy. I mean,
yeah,
the turnovers are kind of iffy. They can go either way, but I mean,
for
imagine if
sure.
they had a few more. I mean, they could be a
Yeah,
500 team possibly with these
I do
last few
worry
games.
about like who they've played, and then I do
Yeah,
worry about the Zach Sealer injury inside.
yeah, for
I
sure.
think Arizona might be able to run the ball with Connor, and I want to see how they do against that.
Yeah.
And then obviously Kyler's a handful too. I don't, man. Like this is such a game that Arizona comes out of nowhere and beats Miami. And it wouldn't be that shocking with how Miami's looked the last few weeks. But like you
Mhm.
said, that Miami defense is a lot better than people think.
Yeah.
And if Tua just gives that offense anything, um, yeah, yeah, I'm excited to watch that game.
Yeah.
All right, Donnie giving another update. A&M touchdown,
Wow.
28-17. Wow, 21 unanswered. Unreal. That they're at A&M, I think. So that
Yeah.
environment must be just wild, wild. All right, next up on the slate is the New York Jets at New England Patriots. The Jets are favored by 7. The over-under is only 40.5, though. I think that's pretty surprising to me. That's a little juicy. What are your thoughts here on either of these squads?
I mean, to be honest with you, as this is a Bills show, this game is irrelevant to me for the Bills. I mean, regardless, I mean the Jets they could go out there and lose by 3 scores or they could win by 3 scores.
Right.
I mean, I think we know the Patriots are not gonna compete for the division. The Jets are
Right,
the
but
only
what does it
ones.
tell you about how good the Jets are unless they
I mean,
lose, right?
I feel like we've heard every excuse for the
Right.
Jets. Oh, we need this,
Right.
we need that. It's the
And they
coach.
already beat
Oh,
New England by a lot, and would that
yeah,
matter,
and
right?
yeah,
Like
I mean, I was all in on them beating the Steelers. The game it was like basically a must win for them. And then the
yeah.
second half, they get blown out. I mean,
That's a good point,
it's
man, because
just
that was the game, right? Like you were like,
yeah,
if there's a game to win, this is it. You gotta win it, and then they lost. So
they got Divine, playbook, and then he goes what 3 for 30 or something like. I
yeah,
mean, he
dude
had
drops his
nothing.
first pass too.
Yeah, I
Yeah, it's
mean,
tough,
this
man.
game,
I agree. I agree. I don't think this game matters too much. I mean, obviously they have to win it, but if they
yeah,
win it, like, does it really mean like does it really tell you that they're gonna be good or they're gonna go on a
yeah,
run? I totally agree with that. It's just fun to watch because it's the AFC East game, and you just want both teams to lose. I mean, especially I think every Bills fan wants the Jets to lose. I think
Yeah,
most NFL fans want Rodgers to lose, but
yeah.
yeah, I mean, like you said, it doesn't really matter. So yeah, that
The
game's
only
on there though
thing,
because the AFC East
yeah,
matchup. Go
yeah,
ahead.
for sure. The only thing that like would, I guess, change my opinion about the Jets is if they can get the run game going. I mean,
Yeah,
they're
Brees
next
has
to
been
last.
cooking the last few weeks.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they still next to last in rush yards per game though. And
Yep.
you would think with them having Brees and then Braylon Allen as well, he had them highlights all those first few weeks, but
Yep.
they're still the run game's still not there.
Rodgers, man, they want to throw it. Rodgers wants to
I know,
throw it.
yeah, it's
I don't
just
understand it. I totally agree with you, man. Like, I'll take a
yeah,
Brees all.
yeah,
We'll use him. All right, final game that we're going to cover on the 1 p.m. slate is the Indianapolis Colts at the Houston Texans. This is a sneaky game for me, man. Like, I totally could see the Colts going on the road there and winning a game. Jonathan Taylor's back. He's healthy. A certain game script, I could totally see the Colts winning. But again, that Colts defense is just like bad, bad. So unless they
mhm,
get some turnovers or Houston just like does some really dumb stuff. Houston should take care of business at home. The over under is 45.5. What do you think about this one?
I mean, to be honest, it's surprising every week that I look up and see Indy. If the season ended today, they'd be in the playoffs. And
Yeah.
that's I think that's more to do with Flacco than it is to do with
Right,
Anthony
you thought they
Richardson.
were like 1-6 or
Yeah,
something,
yeah,
right? Like, yeah,
yeah.
for sure.
I mean, every film breakdown I see of Richardson, he's jumping around in the pocket. He's missing someone by
Yep,
5 yards. It's just like no growth.
yep.
I don't expect anything different. I
Yeah,
saw.
we've
Go
talked
ahead.
about that a lot on
Mhm.
here, like about Anthony Richardson, because I'm a Gators fan, and so I
Yeah.
watched him a lot in college. And for me, it's like he was always a 2 to 3 year project, right? And I think
Hmm.
he's only, I think what he started like 10 games now in the pros because of the
Yeah.
injuries and everything. So it's like I think people just shouldn't even grade him on where he's at right now because he was
Yes,
such a
sir.
project coming in. So it's like this is still his rookie year, man. He's 10 games in. So yes, I
Yep.
want to like if I'm evaluating the Colts, I totally knock them because Richardson's playing and Flacco has been playing way better than him. But Flacco should like he is way farther along, obviously,
Mhm.
than Richardson is. Like Richardson needs times, he needs snaps, and I think it's going to take an off season or two for him to refine things if he does it all right. Like there's some
Yep.
drastic things he needs to do. His mechanics are bad, his footwork's bad, his timing is
Hmm.
off, his short game passing is awful. Part of that is his feet and his
Yeah.
mechanics, but
Yeah.
again, like that takes time. Like you can't just fix that. And then being injured like he was with his shoulder and not having a full off season, and then he didn't have a full off season as a rookie, right? Because you're getting ready for the draft.
Hmm.
It's really hard for me to like knock him too much or say he's a bust or he'll never amount
Yeah.
to anything because I think we're still almost at where we were when he was a rookie. Like you said, you haven't seen any progress because
Mhm.
he's been injured and
Yeah.
he needs time, man. So
Yeah.
yeah, I think you're spot on with that. Like until you see something from him, it's hard to give this Colts team any credit. But they've won a couple games.
Yeah.
And if he
Exactly.
connects on some passes, some of those
Yeah.
deep passes, right? Like
That's my
it's
next
so boom
point.
or bust, right?
Yeah. I know we think, we know his accuracy is bad, and I want to say average QB accuracy is just, let's just say 60%, 65, in the NFL average.
Yeah.
His is 48.5,
Yep.
which is
And it's
god
like
awful.
0 to 10 yard accuracy is like
Yeah, which is crazy.
awful, like putrid. He's
Yeah.
okay intermediate. He's okay to bad deep ball, but man,
Yeah.
his short accuracy is just awful. It reminds me a
Crazy.
lot of rookie Josh Allen. Like
Yeah,
rookie
yeah,
Josh Allen
yeah.
could not throw a swing pass to save his life. Like it was
Yeah.
insane. But again, like you overhaul your mechanics and your footwork. Like a lot of things could
Hmm.
change, but that is not easy, and that takes a lot of work. And you got to be healthy.
Yeah.
So we'll see with them. They're interesting to me. I would love to see them beat Houston at home. I would totally
Hmm.
rather play the Colts than play Houston any day. So yeah, I'll definitely be watching that game. All right, let's get to the main event. Buffalo Bills at Seattle Seahawks, 4:05 Eastern kickoff. The game is on Fox. The announcers will be Kevin Burkhardt on the play-by-play, and our favorite Tom Brady as the color commentator. I will, full disclosure, say I have not listened to Tom Brady call a game yet, so I am mildly interested in that aspect of it. We'll see how long that interest lasts. The Bills are favored by 3 on the road. The total is 45.5, which is really interesting to me because it opened at 47, so it's gone down. I don't know if that's weather. I don't know if that's Metcalf being out. Maybe because the corners for Seattle is healthy. Maybe all the above. We'll see. Weather is going to be in the mid 50s with a 40 to 60% chance of rain during the game. There might be some morning rain as well. Nothing's supposed to be too heavy, though. It is Seattle, so that could change. Let's go into the injuries real quick. Bring up the Bills injury report. Most people know by now that Terrell Bernard has been ruled out. He's the Bills' middle linebacker. That defense with him on and off the field is very, very different. So on passing plays that Terrell Bernard is on the field, the Bills have an EPA, so expected points against, of minus 0.15. So very good on defense. Anything minus is very good. So minus 0.15. When Terrell Bernard is off the field on passing plays, they give up 0.26. Very big difference. That is a difference of minus 0.41. That would be the best pass defense in the NFL. So it is massive difference with him on and off the field. Also, the busted coverage percentage when he is on the field for pass plays is 11%. When he is off the field, that goes all the way up to 20%. So a difference of 9%. The Bills blow 9% more coverages when he is off the field. Very big difference. Run plays, when he is on the field, the Bills are minus 0.24 EPA against the run. Very good. You would not suspect that with the numbers, but they make a lot more splash plays. He gets in the backfield a lot. He has guys lined up in the right gaps in the right places. When he is off the field on run plays, the Bills give up 0.16 EPA per rush. That is a difference of 0.4. That is massive. So his impact is crazy. Also, there's a thing called boom percentage. So that is giving up big plays against the run. So over 10 yards against the run. When he is on the field, the Bills give up that on 7% of the plays. When he is off the field, the Bills give up 18% of boom runs. So over 10 yards. That is a massive jump of 11%. So that is a really big loss for the Bills. Balin Spector has played earlier this year because Bernard missed some games with his pec injury. So at least Balin has played, but you could argue he hasn't played very well. He's definitely better against the run versus the pass. They brought him in for a play or two last week, and immediately the Titans went after him in the pass game, and he gave up a big pass play. So not looking forward to that. The other injury is Dwayne Carter. He had the wrist injury. He is getting surgery, and he got placed on IR. So he's going to be out at least 4 games. That is a big blow because he's been playing very well, especially against the rush. He was top 10 in run stop grade. So he was making a big impact these last few weeks. Eli Anku is going to be called up. Very well versed in this Bills defense. He's had to play multiple times before in the last few years and played pretty well, especially against the run. So that is nice to have him come up. We'll see how much run he gets. And then Curtis Samuel is the other one who's out. We'll see how long he's out for with that pec injury. He's been pretty underwhelming because he's also had a turf toe, and I think that's really hurt him. The Bills will be down to 4 active wide receivers with Cooper, Shakir, Coleman, and Mac Hollins, but they did call up practice squad wide receiver Jalen Virgil, who came over from the Broncos. He's a speed guy. We'll play some special teams, but we'll see. We haven't seen him play yet, so we'll see how much he even plays at all, but he is the practice squad call-up. Earlier in the year, they had called up Terrell Shavers. They also have Hamler on the practice squad. They didn't call him up. So that's an interesting storyline to watch. Seattle's injury report, by far the worst injury report in the history of football. They put out the worst, dumbest injury report ever. So I'm sorry about the formatting. It is stupid, but this is directly from the Seattle Seahawks. They issue this stupid injury report. So the major one here is DK Metcalf. He is doubtful. He said he's going to try to play, but I worry about that for him. I mean, they have a bye week next week. Like, you could just rest him, let him come back healthy. Big risk of him injuring this worse. He's only ever missed one game in his career, which is crazy. So I'm sure he's going to try to play. He did not practice this week, and it's looking doubtful that he's going to give it a go. So we'll see. We'll definitely talk about the impact of that in a little bit. The other ones, the Seahawks are getting healthy. They haven't had Tariq Woolen in the last few games. He's a very good corner for them outside. He's back. Trey Brown looks like he might give it a go too. He's been questionable with an ankle. He's missed the last few games. He's their other outside corner, and he is a pretty good corner. And then their young corner, Nehemiah Pritchett, who's been playing in Brown and Woolen's absence. He is dealing with an ankle injury as well, and he's questionable. George Fant has been on IR, and he's just coming back now. He's questionable with the knee. He might play. He would probably, I'm guessing, be more of like their backup right tackle or something. I don't think he would come right in and start, especially with the questionable designation, but we'll see. But looks like Seattle's getting much healthier overall. So that wraps up the injury report. Do you have any talking points for this game before we get into the trenches and the skill positions? Do you have any like overarching thoughts or anything you're looking for big picture in this game?
I mean, I'm curious to see. There's a big difference. Well, I say big difference. A difference of like 1.2 yards per pass attempt with Reek Woolen being on and off the field.
Yes.
So I think him being back is a huge deal.
He's really good. Yeah.
Yeah. The DK injury, obviously he's a great player, but you think about the Seattle and they throw a lot of like outside passes up to him. He does go to the middle of the field, but I think if Seattle's going to attack the middle of the field regardless in this game with the passing game. So, like
which
you
is
said,
the Bills'
let him
weakness.
sit. Let him sit. Yeah.
Yeah. No, and I also like they've been the most pass happy team in the NFL, right? They lead the NFL in attempts, and I think that's a detriment. Like I think they should run the ball. Like they should want to run the ball. A little update here. LSU touchdown, 2-point try failed. A&M is now leading 28-23 for those following at home. With Kenneth Walker, like I want to run the ball, man, and play action. They don't do a lot of play action, and they only run the ball like 40-something%. Like they lead the NFL in pass attempts. So this might force them to run the ball more, which is bad for the Bills. Like the Bills are weak against the run. They're susceptible to get gashed, especially with Bernard out and Dwayne Carter. And so I worry about that, man. Like I would almost rather this is crazy to say. I would almost rather DK play so that way they want to throw the ball more. Maybe like I know that's like weird, but the Bills are good on the outside. They haven't given up a lot of big plays in the passing game, and so I don't know. A banged up DK out there is not the worst thing, but yeah, I worry about them. Last week against Atlanta, they ran the ball more, and so I don't want them doing that to us. So we'll see. I think that's a good call, though. I think the Reek Woolen one is a really good call too. I mean, he's a really good player, and that changes things when he's on the outside because they've been a little more susceptible to the passing game on the outside without Brown and Woolen in there.
For sure.
Let's get into the trenches a little bit. I have some stats for that. We can start with maybe we'll start with the Seattle defense and the Bills offensive line. So we'll start with Seattle's defense. Let me pull up that real quick. So I don't know how easy this is for people to read out there, but we'll do the talking for you. I just wanted to show how their defensive line lines up. So Seattle's defense is 7th in the league with 20 sacks. They rank 17th in pass rush win rate, so middle of the pack, and 18th in run stop win rate. So run stop win rate is basically just how your defensive line does against their block. It doesn't necessarily mean they make the tackle or the play. It just means that they defeated the block, essentially. Same with pass rush win rate as well. It doesn't mean that they get the sack or even put pressure. It just means how they did on their one-on-one matchup. So Boye Mafe and Derek Hall are their outside edges. Both young, very good players, kind of speed to power guys. Mafe is kind of a freak athlete, um, long arms, and really good player, man. Both of them have had good years so far. I think they have 9 sacks between the two of them, and they've both been making plays. And then they have Leonard Williams in the middle coming over from the Giants. Good player on the inside. Really, really good. So good defensive line. And yeah, I think the matchup on the outside, and I think the Bills match up well there is with the edges, and that's kind of where the Bills have been good. The Bills right now, they're seventh in pass block win rate, and they're 21st in run block win rate. The Bills' offensive line has only given up 9 sacks. Now, a lot of that is Josh Allen evading sacks, so I don't want to give too much credit to the offensive line, but they've done a pretty good job. Deion Dawkins, the Bills' left tackle, ranks 14th in pass block win rate, and then Spencer Brown on the right side ranks 16th in pass block win rate. So both tackles for the Bills have been very good. Here's how the Bills' offensive line looks. I do worry about the Leonard Williams matchup against Torrance, the Bills' right guard, but both the Bills' guards do pretty well against straight up like power and straight up pass rush. I think where both have struggled has been simulated pressures. Now, Mike McDonald is arguably the best defensive coordinator at simulated pressures. So I do worry about that. The Bills have had some miscommunication issues, and that has led to some free rushers coming. And like I said, Mike McDonald is very creative with his simulated pressures, and I do worry about that. Do you have any thoughts on the Seattle defensive line against the Bills offensive line, or any matchups you're looking forward to?
I mean, I heard your stats about the Seattle run D, but what scares me, or not scares me, what's good for the Bills is last week's game for Seattle. They played Atlanta, and they gave up 155 yards, but that's whatever, 155. But the majority of that was in the first half because Atlanta was down big in the second half. So if they would have continued running the ball, I mean, Byron Murphy.
I do think that's a good point. I think that's an area where the Bills do have an advantage and should take advantage of that, right?
Yeah,
Especially, go ahead.
With you got James Cook now. Ray Davis is showing that he deserves some reps. I mean, I want to see maybe sprinkle in some, Josh Allen. He's gonna have a few scrambles, I'm sure. I feel like that's gonna be a key point with the run game with them.
Yeah, I look forward to. I think the advantage here is Bill's offensive line for sure. They've been a very good unit, and I think they have to take advantage of the run game for sure. Make it easier on Josh, especially with the corners coming back. Seattle's defense has talent. They have talent. And so I want to take advantage of the weak spots, and I think that's a good point on their D line. I want to run at them.
Yeah.
I don't think their edges are as good in run defense. So
I mean they're giving up five yards per carry for the season.
That's crazy.
I mean, I know Murphy was out part of the season, but I mean he's been a key player.
That's a good point too. When he's back and healthy, I didn't have him on that graphic because he's been out. He came back against Atlanta, and when he's back, that defense is that line is different with him and Leonard Williams.
Oh yeah,
Murphy's a stud, man. He's going to be really good.
Yeah, Buffalo. I'm sure you know this as a Buffalo follower, but they run the ball. They were 8th highest in the league with run percentage. Almost 50% of their plays are runs.
Yeah.
I mean, I think they just need to stick to that. With this, I think it's a good matchup for them in the run game.
Yeah, some of it's been game script specific, but I agree. I think with the way they've been running the ball, and then what it does to the pass game and what it opens up, and takes the pressure off Josh. I totally agree. Like, I don't ever want to be a run first team when you have Josh Allen, but I am a firm believer that running the ball opens up things in the passing game, especially what the Bills want to do with the passing game and sneak guys behind, linebackers that are coming in and also get teams out of too high, right? A lot of teams run too high against Buffalo and run light boxes. So take advantage of that. They've been bringing in the 6th lineman a lot, Alec Anderson. That's our boy, friend of the network. And he's been doing a really good job. And And I want to see them keep doing that, right? Like force teams out of the too high and then start throwing the ball. So that's a good
for
point.
sure.
All right, so let's flip it around. Seattle offense. Get that up. So Seattle offensive line, they have given up 20 sacks, which is the fourth most in the NFL. They've struggled, especially on the right side. Bradford has been subpar this year, even so last year. And then Gerald's been playing, young guy. I don't know what they're going to do on that right side. I don't know if Fant's going to start, what they're going to do, but even so, I would go after him. I don't think he's 100%. But definitely Bradford. I think you can get after them. Connor Williams is the center. We know him, came over from Miami, coming back. Unbelievable how he's able to come back from the late knee injury, and he's been playing very well. And then Charles Cross, the left tackle's rookie. I think you can get him with power. Right? He's very athletic. He's been playing very well, but I think you can get him with power, and I want to see that matchup with I think both AJ and Rousseau can get after him. So Charles Cross is fifth in run block win rate. Seattle O-line overall is 28th in pass block win rate and 25th in run block win rate. So they haven't been good. The O-line has not been blocking well either. I was surprised by that. Walker's had some games that haven't been great, and a lot of that is the run game early, and then they've been playing catch up because the defense was allowing points, and so they've kind of had to abandon the run. That would be a great script for the Bills, but we'll see. On the flip side, the Bills' defense, they are ninth in the NFL with 19 sacks. They are 16th in pass rush win rate, and they're fourth in run stop win rate, which is surprising given how much runs rushing yards they've given up. But a lot of that has been second level and third level stuff, run fits, wrong gaps where it necessarily isn't really on the defensive line. The defensive line overall has played pretty well. Greg Rousseau is 15th in pass rush win rate. He's been playing really well. Last week, he played out of his mind. I think he had 6 quarterback hits in one game, which is just crazy. Daquan Jones has been turning it on as of lately. He is 17th in pass rush win rate for defensive tackles. And Ed Oliver has been playing quietly better too. He had the hamstring injury, and I think he's finally getting back after that. He is 19th in pass rush win rate. What are your thoughts on the Seattle offense versus the Bills in the trenches?
Like you just mentioned with Greg Rousseau, him going crazy last week. He had 11 pressures, and they lined him up. I think it was mostly on the left side. Is what was going on. They
were trying to match him up against Tennessee's backup tackle. Is what.
I'm curious to see if they do that again this week with the rookie Jarrell. Because he's shown nothing. I think PFF had the Seattle's offensive line ranked like 28th this week. So I think this is a game he's just primed to show up and show out.
I think him and AJ too, and even Smoot. I think they match up well even against Charles Cross. I think Charles Cross does really well against speed, but I don't think he does super well against power. So I think that's a great call. I think you get pressure on Geno and he turns into a different quarterback. You got to rattle him. You got to get pressure on him.
And another thing is, I go back to that game last week. It's a lot of this is what have you done lately for me, or what haven't you done? But Geno was pressured 50% of his pass plays last week against Atlanta's rush. And who they have? Judon, old man Judon as their lead rush. If they can get to him, what is this front four for Buffalo going to do?
I definitely think that's going to be a big matchup in this game. Especially if Buffalo can get out to an early lead and make Seattle throw the ball. If Seattle can just run the ball with Walker, that's trouble. But if Buffalo gets a chance to pin their ears back and come after Geno, I think that is great for the Bills as far as a mismatch.
For sure.
All right, we'll move to the skill positions. Start with Seattle's defense. We kind of covered it a little bit as far as their corners. Witherspoon is really good nickel corner. Woolen's coming back to play on the outside. I'm not sure if Pritchett plays. They might. If Trey Brown can go, he'll definitely start over Pritchett. He's a pretty good player. But the stars really are Tariq Woolen and Witherspoon. And then, the safeties, Love's a good player. I think where they can be had is the free safety Bryant. I think he's made some mistakes. I don't think he's anything special. Um, but they have good players on every level. The linebackers, we know Dotson very well. Used to be in Buffalo last year. Tyrell Dotson. He was playing middle linebacker. They traded Baker for Jones, Ernest Jones from the Titans, who we just played last week. And Ernest Jones is going to slide over and play middle linebacker for them this week. And then Dotson's going to play outside linebacker. The schemes are very similar between the Titans and Seattle. They both come from the Ravens tree. So I think Jones will probably be fine, but neither of them are good in coverage, and I think that's an area where the Bills are really going to look to target is get the linebackers in coverage, get the safeties in coverage, target the middle of the field. I think that's where the Bills are going to have their most success. McDonald likes to run some man coverage. Woolen and Brown and Witherspoon are very good at that, and so that's something I'm interested to see how much man coverage they want to run, especially with those guys coming back from ankle injuries. What do you think of the Seattle back end and how they match up against the Bills?
I mean, it's a totally different game than it would be 2 weeks ago for the Bills having Amari Cooper. I mean,
For sure.
he's going to open up. I mean, he can pretty much match up with anyone, and then it's just going to open it up for Shakir. I think it's just putting him. No one can stop him per se, I would say. And I heard Witherspoon. He had a good rookie season for sure, but I saw that he had went from his catch percentage allowed last year was 53%, and he's up to like 72% now this year.
Yeah.
So he's taking
Yeah.
a big dip. So I mean, I feel like he's going to be maybe their point of emphasis on what they're going to attack.
Yeah, it's a good point. I mean, I think part of that is just where the Bills should look to attack this game as far as the middle of the field.
So,
Um, and he's part of that. So I think that's a good call out. I think Cooper is going to open up stuff on the outside, right? Like I
mhm.
like the matchup against him versus Tyreek Woolen. I think Tyreek Woolen's a good corner, but Cooper matches up well against anyone, and I think they still have to focus on that, and that helps with safeties having to shade over there, linebackers having to give some help, and so that leaves more room for. I look for Kincaid in this game. I think this is a game where Kincaid should definitely be able to take out advantage of these linebackers and even the safeties. So yeah, I really want to see Kincaid. We saw him last week get a little more down the field, and I think this is another game where they should look to get him involved running down the field again. And then yeah, Shakir, I think he's another week removed from the ankle injury, and last week he looked really good. And I think it's kind of like cheat yards when they get him the ball in space. He's so good after the catch. So yeah, for me it's get stuff over the middle of the field, man. I'm just all day run the ball and then over the middle of the field. I could even see Knox getting involved in this game with that as well. And then Keon, I want to see what they do with him. Like, do they line him? Some of those in breakers they started doing with him, the slants. I think this is a
Yeah.
good game for that. And also just setting them down in the zone in the middle of the field and then letting them run after the catch. So I really do think this is a good matchup, the Bills versus the secondary. It's just whether or not the pass protection can hold up against these simulated pressures.
Yeah, I mean, like you keep saying the middle of the field. I can't agree more because with the two tight ends and I mean both running backs as well. I just feel like they're gonna go.
Yeah.
They could go
Yeah, that's a
crazy in
good
this game
point.
because
The running back should be involved
yeah,
for sure this game. Yeah.
I mean they have
I,
they traded for Ernest Jones, which is just a crazy story in itself. He had a good season in L.A. last year, but then they
Right,
traded him
right.
to
And young,
Tennessee.
dude. He's what,
Yeah,
not even 25 or
yeah,
25.
yeah.
So
And then he goes
yeah.
to Tennessee for a few weeks, and then they get rid of him. So I mean,
Yep.
in Seattle they had their starter, and then they signed Jerome Baker this offseason.
Yep. Yep.
And then they're sending him out. So I mean, that has to be the weakness outside of Witherspoon, like I said earlier. But that middle of the field, I feel like Buffalo just has to constantly attack that.
Yeah, I forgot to mention that, but I totally agree. I think the running backs getting them out in space, and this is the
Hmm.
game to do it, man. Get them out in space, get them matched up on a linebacker or safety. I love that. That's a really good call. And all three of the Bills running backs can line up out wide and catch the ball between
Yeah,
Ty Johnson, Ray Davis, and Cook. So I really like that matchup for sure.
yeah.
All right. All right. So that is the Bills side of the house on offense. What about Seattle's side on offense? We kind of talked about it. Um, Kenneth Walker, man, he's gonna be the story of the game for me. Like, he hasn't gotten a lot of touches this year, which I'm interested in. Like, I think the high for carries is like 14 a game,
Yeah.
which is really surprising. He's a bigger guy. You can give him more carries. So, but he has been injury prone. So I don't know if that's what they're
Mhm.
they're worried about. But man, this is if there's ever a game, this is the game, man. Like let him pound the rock, and even in the air, I would throw him a couple passes as well. The Bills struggle with running backs out of the backfield. I think they're in the top three for giving up receptions and yards to running backs. So you got to worry about Charbonnet as well out of the backfield. Like we said for Seattle's defense, same with the Bills' defense. Like middle of the field, tight ends, running backs, get them in space, and the middle of the field, attack the middle of the field. I think the screen game, the Bills are awful defending the screen. I would get Charbonnet or Walker on the screen game. Tight end screens, the Bills stink against too. Leak Fant out and have him run a screen. And then running back
Yeah.
checkdowns, the Bills are not great, and especially with Bernard out. So I'm looking for little flare routes for Walker and Charbonnet out of the backfield. I think that's where Seattle's going to have monster success is getting the running backs involved and the tight end. And yeah, that really worries me.
Yeah. I mean, I think it goes back to what we were discussing earlier. If the Bills D line can get pressure, it changes the game completely. Because
Yeah.
to me, as an outsider, as not a true Bills fan, like what can the Bills do against a above average quarterback? I mean, they played the Ravens. I mean, that was a run game, so I mean, whatever,
Right.
But I mean, I'm curious to see what they do because they beat up on the horrible quarterbacks. But what can
Right.
they do, especially if
Right. And then
DK's
Stroud
playing?
was like, was playing well, and then Nico gets hurt really
Yeah,
early,
yeah.
right? And
So
then
they
after
hadn't
that, it
really
was a
faced
different game.
a real
Right.
big test. So we'll see. That's,
For
that's what I'm
sure.
curious.
Yeah. And I mean, so Gino's, funny for the Bills, right? Because we know him so well from the Jets, but
Yeah,
he's not the same player he was.
totally different.
He's right. And you give him time and let him be in rhythm. And, I would classify him as he's an average starting quarterback. I think
Mhm.
an average starting quarterback. But he's got good weapons, and you give him time, he's gonna, throw the ball accurately and make good decisions.
Yeah.
You hurry him up, like you said, you move him off his spot, and it's different. Now he can run, and I think that's an underrated value that he brings. And I do worry about not containing him in this game and letting him run some, especially again with the linebacker injuries. I worry about that because he can run and he will pick up yards when you give him the chance. He doesn't look to run, but he can.
Yeah.
So yeah, I am interested as well. Like this is a game where I think the defense could totally flip this game. You force them into a turnover too. Seattle has turned the ball over. I think they have a -3 or -4 turnover margin. Buffalo's like +10 or something, like
Mhm.
unreal.
Mhm.
So yeah, I think you get a couple turnovers and this game could be totally different. But again, you give Gino time and he will pick you apart.
Yeah, I think it's still, Buffalo. If they win the toss, I feel like they need to attempt to go score first, get out in front, and take away
They did
that.
that last week, man. I hate when they do that. I always want to defer to the second half.
Yeah,
They did it supposedly because of like the wind. They were worried about the wind picking up in the second half and the advantage, and so they 3-and-outed. I mean, granted, Cooper dropped the first down pass, but
yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I always want to defer, but I totally agree with you though. Like
Mhm.
the game script here for Seattle is get out to a lead, run the ball,
Yeah,
right, and yeah, make the Bills defense like have to like worry about the run,
mhm,
right? Take a step forward first, and
yeah,
for the Bills, it's like you said, get out to an early lead, and then pin your ears back and go get Geno.
yeah,
Especially with Metcalf not healthy or out, right? Like Lockett's not the same guy he was. He's still good, but he's not the same guy. He's more like finding soft spots in the zone, more underneath stuff, crossing routes. Like he's not the vertical threat he was, and then they don't run JSN deep or vertical at all, which is really weird to me. Like he definitely can do it. So he's more of a possession guy, intermediate guy, and so yeah, I think that's the way you get Seattle, right? Like Detroit did. Like you get out early on them and make them play catch up.
yeah. Agreed.
All right, so player props. What do you like in this game? And you got anything interesting? Any interesting angles? The
I
floor is
mean,
yours.
first thing that popped out to me, there's two of them. I have a 1A and a 1B that really stuck out to me.
The
First
more the
one,
merrier, man.
I don't. They had Greg Russo over
Yeah.
under 0.25 sacks. So a half a sack wins the bet
Jeez.
at -110. I mean, we discussed
What?
it earlier. How many
I looked
pressures
at
he
him to
had?
record a sack, right? This was on
Yeah.
FanDuel, but I looked at
Okay.
this as well, and it was -120 for
Oh
Rousseau to
wow.
get a sack. So yeah, if
Yeah.
you could find that,
This
I
was
would
on
bet
DK.
that
It was
in a
on
minute.
DraftKings. Yeah.
I would take
And
that in
I thought that was
seconds.
crazy. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
So what was it again? It was 0.25.
yeah, over under 0.25. So a half a sack
Yeah,
about having that or not, and it was -110, and that was this
dude.
evening. Yeah. I
Yeah,
mean, like I feel like they got to hammer it.
that's a must play,
Yeah.
1,000%. Yeah,
If he
for
doesn't
sure.
get that, then the Bills are probably in trouble.
I
For
would
the
agree with
game
that.
in
So
general.
we'll stick to sacks then, because I like two of them here. I like AJ to get a sack in this game. He's heating
Okay.
up. They've had him coming off the bench. He still plays about the same. They just don't have him starting, but
Yeah.
he's getting there, man. And when he goes on streaks, he is as good as, I'd say, probably top 15 rusher in football, like top 20 when he heats up. So he's plus 148 to record a sack. I really like that, because when he gets sacks, they come in bunches.
Mhm.
And then I liked Jones for Seattle on the interior, Draymond Jones. They kind of move him in and out. They've kind of been figuring it out. But the Bills can be had with some of that simulated pressures, and his number's plus 280. I thought that was just too good.
Yeah.
And he's kind of been heating up lately as well. So those are my two sack parlays. What else do you got?
The other one that my 1B was 25 plus rush yards for Ray Davis. It was also -110. I feel like
Ah,
with the last
that's
few
on mine
weeks.
too.
Oh,
So
it is.
what was your line? What was yours?
-110 for him for 25
But
plus
what
rush yards.
total?
25 or more rush
Okay.
yards. Yeah.
So on FanDuel, it's over under 22 and a half.
Oh well.
And go ahead. You were going to say in his last.
Yeah, I mean, so we know James Cook was out 2 weeks ago, but I mean, I
Yep.
feel like obviously he got more touches that game, but he's shown that he deserves more touches. Get a
Right.
little bit
Yeah.
of
And
running
last
back by
game he had
committed.
9 for 41, I think.
Yeah, yeah.
So
So I mean, 25 just
yeah.
seems like, especially with their linebackers, like we've discussed,
Yeah.
Seattle's
And the game
linebackers.
script, right? Like
Yep.
if Buffalo gets any kind of lead, like I think that's where they lean into him. Red zone and uh and then with the weather too, right? Like you get some rain
Yep.
or something like that. Like yeah, I think that's just an easy smash over 22 and a half. So
One more,
yeah.
sorry, one
No,
more
go
for Ray
ahead.
Davis. They had him also. It's on DraftKings. Over. This is at -110 again. Over under 3.5 receiving yards. I mean, it's one catch.
Oh yeah, I
I
like
mean,
that
I feel like
too.
he's. I mean, there's going to be a check down at some point.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. It's just one catch. So yeah, I like that one. They didn't have it on FanDuel. They didn't have
Yeah.
uh, receiving yards for Ray Davis. So I like Kincaid for receiving yards. I like him over 40 in this game. It's -106. Last week he had 3 for 50. They've been going a little more vertical with him. I think this game there's no reason why he shouldn't be getting targets,
Yeah.
unless the Seattle just designs their defense to take him away like teams were earlier in this year. But that's going to open up so much more for Cooper and Shakir and stuff like that. So I think Kincaid will get his chances, and over 40 seems pretty low to me. So I have him -106. And then on the Seattle side, dude, I will take Walker over 64 and a half all day rushing yards. Like I have zero faith in the Bills to shut someone down. They could, and they could surprise me, but with Bernard out, it really worries me. Seattle started running the ball last week. Ryan Grubb's been getting criticized for not running the ball more. If there's ever a game to pound the rock, it's this one. So I got Walker over 64 and a half. It's -113. And then the other one I thought was just too good was Geno Smith over 12 and a half rushing yards. That seems so low to me. Like he's been over that, I think, 4 games this year. He either gets like no rushing yards or pretty decent, but that could be one rush. Like, especially again with these linebackers, like I feel like they're going to let him through the line once or twice. I think they're going to get pressure on him, so I think he's going to have to run around. He breaks one or two runs, he's going to get over 12 and a half. So I thought that was real low. And then
My
I got
Geno
some.
one. Go ahead.
Go ahead. No,
No,
go ahead.
yes, I have one for Geno too, and I think it plays right into that the rush yard one. I have him at -130 to throw one interception, because I feel like this
Okay.
game's going to play right into the game script of them being behind and him having to throw more. which also goes, with them having to run the ball. I mean, if they might be pushing the ball down the field, opening up the run lane for him, scrambling.
Yeah.
So I mean,
No,
I
I
think
think
it's
that's a really good call. I mean, again, like if you get into a passing game, right, he's first in attempts. He's definitely
mhm,
throwing interceptions this game. Yeah, and I don't think the Josh Allen one's terrible either. Like he hasn't thrown one yet this year. Like he's gonna throw
yeah,
some interceptions.
it's gonna
I could
happen
see a
eventually.
game script where they're behind. Bills have got to throw the ball more.
Hmm.
If it's wet, um, you know, I don't know. Anything's possible, right? It takes a tip pass,
Yeah,
but I feel like he's due. So I wouldn't hate that if the odds were good enough either. I would even see if there's a over one, or over half an interception for each of them, right? Is usually what it
yeah,
is. So that wouldn't be a bad play as well.
mhm,
So anytime touchdowns for me, I like Walker. I think he's going to get touches inside the goal line. He's going to get touches. I like a Jake Bobo. So the Walker one was minus 110. I like a Jake Bobo plus 390. I think he's going to play with DK out or limited. And I
yeah,
think in the red zone, they've liked him. Gino's like throwing him the ball over the middle in the red zone. And I think in the middle is where you attack the Bills, especially in the red zone. So I like Jake Bobo plus 390. And then I like James Cook plus 140. That just seems really, really high for a running back one. He's
mhm,
been getting red zone carries. He's scored in the last two. He's scored in 4 of 5 games. So 140 just is way too much value. I have to play that.
for sure.
And then the last one is Dawson Knox plus 700. This is purely off vibes. They've had a couple plays for him in the red zone. Again, I don't like Seattle's linebackers in coverage, and I think this could be a game where Dawson Knox, surprises and gets one. Plus 700, I think is good value for a chance.
I agree. I agree.
All right, so we'll go to our blueprint to victory. I didn't plan this with you, so you got
Hmm.
to take this off the cuff a little bit, but
All right.
I will have you do the blueprint to a Seattle Seahawks victory. If you want to give maybe one or two things on offense, one or two things on defense, maybe one or two things just total, or you break it up however you want. Normally I do one or two things on offense and one or two things on defense for the Bills, but I will let you do Seattle. I'll go first for the Bills, so that way you have a little time to brainstorm
Sure.
it. But
Yeah.
yeah, what do you see needing to happen for Seattle to win? So for the Bills on offense, I think it starts with no turnovers. They got to keep that train rolling. On the road in a tough environment, you cannot give possessions away. So I think they got to stick to that, and that'll be a big key for a victory. And then the other one for me is use the running backs and tight ends in motion and get them one on one with linebackers. I'd love to see some play action and Josh checking it down to the running backs. I think neither of these linebackers are good in coverage, and I want to exploit that and give Josh some easy throws. So I think if the Bills can do both those things on offense, that'll go a long way. And then on defense for the Bills, they have to stop the run. Have to stop the run. Don't give up explosives. If Walker gets a crease, he's gone. Do not let them get easy touchdowns, quick touchdowns. Make them grind them out. I don't need them to hold the Seattle to like 70 yards rushing or something like that. I just mean don't give up explosives in the run game. Make them grind it out. Force Gino to have to throw the ball, especially to wide receivers if Metcalf's not playing. Like force him to drop back and throw it. And then the other thing for defense is no pre-snap, post-snap penalties. Don't give them free first downs. Make them have to earn everything, especially on first down. Like do not give them short yardage. Like make them have to earn it. And I think those will go a long way to a Bills victory. What do you got for Seattle?
Um, I mean, it's a lot that we've already discussed. I mean, I think the main thing that they need to do is whether it's great game script or they're forcing it. I think they need to stay away from trying to throw the ball as much as they have been. This is the prime game for them to. I mean, if they want to throw it, give me 5 yards or less in the air every time. Check it down, because I mean we've discussed the linebackers being the weakness probably of this defense, middle of the field.
For
You
sure.
know, I mean, they run the ball well. They just don't run it frequently. So I think they need to try to at least attempt to run the ball more, see what it does for them. If not, work the middle of the field. Josh Allen, he 42.9% completion percentage on against four man rushes And I mean, if Seattle's D line, they're finally fully healthy again, Leonard Williams, Byron Murphy, I mean, if they can all get going, get Josh on the run, I mean, he, like you said, he hadn't thrown interceptions, but we know how he's been in the past. Where if he can get to where he starts making those Superman hero throws, I mean, I think that's the key to them winning. And I mean, this is almost a prove it game for Seattle as well because they're basically a 500 team. If they want to be a playoff team, this is the type of games that they have to win.
For
I mean,
sure,
I feel like
especially
they're
with
out
the
of
way
excuses.
the NFC West too, right?
Yeah,
Like it
yeah,
is theirs. They're in the driver's seat right now, right? If they win this game, I mean, it is
hmm
a big statement game for them. I think the national media and coverage looks at Seattle completely differently if they win this game.
yep. I mean, Seattle. I mean, this goes hand in hand with. I mean, if they can get to Josh Allen, they were fourth in the league on 4-man pressures. So I mean
Yeah,
that, and then Josh Allen not being good against for whatever reason 4-man pressures getting to
a
him,
lot of that was
forcing
pre
him out.
Cooper with
Yeah, yeah,
guys just not beating coverage. But
yeah.
I totally agree with you. I think simulated pressures for sure, right? And
hmm
McDonald is so good at them.
Yeah.
And what we mean by simulated pressures, if people don't understand, it means they are showing blitz, right? So they're bringing extra guys up, and then they're dropping your normal four linemen. So they'll drop
hmm
like a DN and a defensive tackle, or both DNs, and they'll just rush the linebackers or a corner and the D tackle. So they're only rushing four guys, but it's not the four guys you think that normally would rush on the line. So your two DNs and D tackles. That's a simulated pressure. It makes you think that they're gonna rush or blitz, and so you're changing your coverages. You're trying to figure out where it's coming from, and then they drop guys, and then they send different guys than you think. It requires a lot of communication by the offensive line and guys to really communicate well, and it stresses your protection. Like principles, rules, and so the Bills have been got by that, and I think that's part of it too. Is it's not just straight four-man pressures the Bills have seen, and so Josh has been facing free rushers from the edge, whether it's a corner or a linebacker or whatever, and so that's I think that's why you've seen that number be so low this year too, coupled with
Yeah.
the fact that they're not getting open quick, the receivers. So yeah, I think that's a great point. I think how the Bills handle those simulated pressures is going to be a huge storyline for the game.
Yeah. The only other thing I'm curious about, I know I spoke a little differently about it earlier, but this is Mike McDonald. He was the defensive guru in Baltimore last year.
Yep.
There has to be some reason that he went out and made this trade for Ernest Jones.
Yeah.
He undoubtedly has, the ship has sailed with Jerome Baker. So I mean, what if
So
Ernest Jones
I mean,
comes in and can do anything more?
we know Baker well because he was with Miami before.
Yeah.
Good downhill thumper, like good against the run, but man, you get him in space and coverage, and it is
So
tough.
yeah.
So Jones is younger, better athlete. I
Mhm.
wouldn't say he's great in coverage, especially like man to man, but he is athletic, and he's shown like some ability. Like he's at least aware, and like with crossers and stuff like that, from what
Mhm.
I've seen doing the film study last week. So I think there's definitely more to work with there. I think that's what it is he's younger, more to
Yeah.
work with, and I think he's more athletic. Like Baker's athletic, but not the same. Ernest Jones is really athletic. So yeah, I think it's a good point. I think there's something there. I think part of it is Denard Wilson, who's the Titans defensive coordinator, worked
Mhm.
with McDonald's,
Yeah.
in Baltimore. So I'm sure they have a lot of intel on Ernest Jones and what he's been so far this year. And then also Ernest Jones came from the NFC West, so with the Rams. So he knows that division well, right?
Yeah.
He's very familiar, and so yeah, I think it made a lot of sense. It's just funny that he plays the Bills now back to back weeks, much like Devonte Adams did with
Yeah.
the Steelers,
Steelers.
right?
Yeah.
So hopefully it's the same story for us Bills fans, where he loses, to the Bills twice in a week.
Yeah.
So we'll see.
Mm.
All right, let's put you to the pressure now, to the test. What is your score prediction? Don't be afraid. I have picked the Bills to lose some games. It's okay. But yeah, what do you got? What's your take?
Well, you made me argue for Seattle, but all that was just, me building them up. But I mean, I just don't. I
Yeah.
don't see them winning this game. I mean, my score is 31-17 Buffalo taking this.
Wow.
Um,
Okay.
that's what I have. I mean, I feel like there's too many weaknesses that we've discussed ad nauseum with Seattle, and I feel like there's too many things that could go right for Buffalo to win this game and not enough things to go right for Seattle to somehow win it. So I feel like it just really favors Buffalo.
Yeah, and see for me, like I don't like this matchup. I really worry
Really.
about Walker creasing the Bills. They get the run game going. I worry about McDonald, the simulated pressures against our offensive line, which has been our weakness. Um, I think there's gonna be points, man. I think should be a high scoring game, especially with so much turnover on the defenses, offensive line getting better for Seattle. So I do have it high scoring. I've gone back and forth like 10 times on what I want to pick in this game, especially with the injuries. But I do have the Bills winning 30-27. I could easily see this go the other way and Seattle winning a close one too. I worry about the Bills kicker, especially if this game's close and it comes down to some kicks. Seattle's not the easiest place to kick, much like Buffalo, especially with the weather. So I worry about that. But yeah, this is a game the Bills should win. I think they're the better team. And both teams haven't shown they can beat good teams, let alone great teams, just good teams. Both teams have been beating up on bad teams. So this is a good test for both teams. Seattle hasn't been as good at home. So that's something too to watch how the Bills handle that environment. It's still a tough environment. So we'll see, but it should be a great game, and I have the Bills pulling it out, and so do you. You have them comfortably, though. I was surprised by
See,
that. If we hold them to 17 points, I would be ecstatic. Ecstatic.
uh, I mean, I just don't see it being close. That's just a gut feeling.
I hope you're right, man. I really
And
do.
yeah, to go along with what you were saying, it being high scoring. So the Bills, in their 5 wins, they're averaging 33.8 points per game. In
Yes.
their 2 losses, 15 points per game. So any
Yep.
game that they've scored 21 or more, they've won this season.
That's
And
a
I don't see
great
them
point.
scoring less than 21 points.
That's a great point. Yeah, especially with, I mean, they have no excuse on
Yeah,
offense, right? I mean,
for
everyone's
sure.
healthy minus Curtis Samuel, but you could argue he hasn't been much of the offense. So, yeah, everyone's healthy. Cooper's now back. Fully should be mostly fully integrated into the
Yeah.
offense. And yeah, Seattle's given up points. They haven't been great. So, yeah, I think that's a fantastic point. Like the Bills have
Mhm.
no excuse not to score points, and if they do, they should win. So we'll see, man. I'm nervous for this one. I definitely am nervous.
Yeah. If you
All
want
right.
another
Well, why
bet,
don't go
sorry,
ahead?
sorry. I
No,
have
go
one more
ahead.
bet if you wanted to hear this one
Hell
because
yeah, man. We love bets here.
the spread's -3 was the last I saw in
Yep.
favor of Buffalo.
Yep.
Um, Buffalo's 4-3 against the spread this season, while Seattle's just 2-5. So if you want to take -3, maybe there's some money there.
Yeah, I don't think that's a bad point. Like you've said too, when the Bills have won, they've kind of won, right,
Yeah.
convincingly. So, yeah, I don't hate it. That spread though is a good point though. I am really interested in that. Like I did not expect the Bills to be favored by 3 on the
Mhm.
road in Seattle, especially with Seattle coming off the win they did. I was very surprised by that. Were you surprised at all by that spread?
I was at first, and the focal point for Buffalo for me that's like improving them and the spread and everything else is the integration of Amari Cooper. He had, I was looking at this Cleveland because obviously he was horrible in Cleveland this year. He was
Yeah,
having 4.2 yards per route run there. Last
yeah,
week he had 13.2 in week 1 in Buffalo, not
yeah,
knowing what he's doing. So there's no telling how he can affect the offense this week. So I feel
yeah,
like
and
it's a
and
fair line.
the first week too, like they did some cool stuff with him, man. Like I really
Mhm.
loved what they did. Like they
Yeah.
were lining him up in the slot, and they would put like Keon or Kincaid outside of him,
Hmm.
and they were doing it so he would draw the attention of the corner and the safety, and they were having him do like outbreaking routes, and then they were making Kincaid or Keon come inside of him, and so that way they had no help. It was cool, and it created a lot of space, and they haven't had that because they haven't had an outside receiver that's threatened the defense. So yeah, I'm excited to see that, man. I'm excited to see how they integrate him, with a full week. Super
Hmm.
smart dude too, like and studies, and so I think they'll have him mostly, injected into this offense. So I think it's a really cool storyline to watch. I'm excited. All
For
right,
sure.
Chase. So why don't you tell people what you do, what you do on your Twitter, how they can follow you. You got a ton of great stats and great info you put out. So why don't you tell people like what you do during the week, what you're interested in, why people should check you out.
Well, I mean, if you're a football nerd like myself, I mean, if you want to see plenty of numbers and plenty of statistics, all teams, it's what I do daily. I mean, it's the math side of the of football is what appeals to me. Um, it can be simplistic stats. I do top level where it's just like very simple stuff, and then I get very deep. Uh, it's a little bit of everything. If you want to follow me, like you said, King NFL Stats. I get requests sometimes to do certain teams or certain aspects of certain sides of the ball. I love all of it. So
So there it
yeah,
is. There it is on the bottom, so people can see.
appreciate that. But
Yeah,
yeah, it's just straight. It's a different side of football to see the analytical portion.
yeah, and I love
For
what you
sure.
do too. You really try to point out like interesting matchups, interesting angles.
Mhm.
Some of it from a betting perspective, fantasy football perspective, but yeah, just really cool stats, man. Definitely check them out. Especially it helps like if you want to stay in the know as far as like matchups for the week or interesting storylines, how
Yep.
how certain people are doing during the year, like certain trends. You put out some cool stuff. How teams are looking good or bad, right? You'll highlight
Mhm.
bad
Yep.
things as well, and so yeah, I think it's super fascinating, man. I've loved following you, and I hope people check you out because you put out some
Appreciate
really
it.
cool stuff.
Appreciate it. Yeah, it's definitely more of what the trend is at the time of as far as statistics. I know I'm not trying to knock other accounts, but you see some that's just like, oh, it's their birthday, so this is what their career stats are. But I like to be put people more in the know and discuss with other people what's going on currently. Who's up, who's down. Really appeals to me. So yeah,
Yeah,
please give
for
me a
sure,
follow.
man.
I appreciate you having me on here. I
Yeah,
enjoyed it.
definitely, definitely. Appreciate you coming on. All right, so next up we have Sunday morning edition of No One to Blame tomorrow at 10 a.m. Eastern time. I think that one's going to be just Kevin and myself. I think Jesse is entertaining some guests or something, so he might not be on the show. We're going to give you our favorite player props, parlays, plays for the NFL Week 8 slate. Again, that's tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Chase, we would love to have you on that show as well. I will give you information on that, and we'll get you set up to come on a future show and give us some of your
Sure.
favorite plays across the NFL landscape. But yeah, check us out tomorrow morning, 10 a.m. Eastern. We're doing FanDuel daily fantasy lineups and strategy as well tomorrow. So definitely check us out. You can always comment and ask questions live. We'll be giving you player updates as far as injury stuff, news that comes out in the morning. So check us out. And then immediately after the Bills Seahawks game, join us at the Do Champions channel for the post game show. We'll give you instant reaction and breakdown of the key moments from the game. You can also feel free to comment, or we'll probably even have the call in as well feature live. So please call in live during the show, and we'll try to answer your questions. We'll hear what your thoughts are of the game, and just have a good conversation. So check us out tomorrow after the game. I'd like to thank our show sponsor again, Happy Holiday and Mackenzie Tree Farms, for supporting us. Please remember this holiday season to buy a real Christmas tree grown here in America. Support our local farmers. Appreciate you all for tuning in. Please join me next Saturday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time. We'll be back to our normal time, 9 p.m. Eastern Time, for the next episode of the Buffalo Blueprint. I'll be joined by Jordan, aka Sully Sports. He joined us last time for the Dolphins matchup. He's the co-host of the List Fins pod. We'll be breaking down the Week 9 divisional matchup at home against the Miami Dolphins. Please like, subscribe on YouTube, Twitter, and Instagram at Dude Champions, and then also myself at Jake FB Data. Don't forget to follow King NFL Stats, our boy Chase here. We really appreciate it. We will see you all next week. Go Bills. Hopefully, we'll be celebrating another victory. Take it easy, everybody. Thanks for tuning in.